one meeting each year going into the spring, and they'll be talking about, potential for flooding. Also, they'll be talking about severe weather awareness going into the summer months, and that will be on February 27th. On March 3rd at 3 o'clock, and then March 4th at 7 o'clock, Emergency Management will be hosting a weather spotter training out of the Cottington County Extension Center. And again, that'll be at 3 o'clock on March 3rd and 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock on March 4th. So we have one afternoon session and then one evening session. So if you can't make it in the afternoon, you can do so in the evening or vice versa. So that's what we have set up there. The Homeland Security grant process is in the works, and we've got that on the agenda for today, don't we, Cindy?
Yes.
We'll address that when you get around to it. But the last thing I've got is last night, Jamie, did you want to speak to this on number 10 there?
Sure. Last night I was contacted by Watertown Dispatch on responding to a train derailment on 4th Avenue between Compesca Boulevard and 4th Street South there. Just a single car train incident where they lost the snow pushing vehicle due to the ice and snowpack on the tracks. Basic incident reporting on our behalf to the state, and a very simple 2-hour situation where they dispatched a team from Aberdeen to come down and re-rail it back on, and the problem resolved itself pretty much. We used a couple barricades from the city to block off that 2-block stretch, but there was no hazards, no leaks. It didn't look like any damage to any roads on their behalf, so pretty simple.
Go ahead, Mark.
On February 3rd, that pipeline safety.
That's
right.
I mean, I know I've been to it, and Charlie's been to it. It's good. It's a good
that'll
training.
be at the Elks if anybody wants to.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Can we still sign up for that, Jim?
Yeah, we can still sign up for that. Yeah.
We're get that information on sign up. I'm not certain I did. I think I did, but
Okay.
All right. Have anything else?
Just the things that we have on the agenda, so I'll let you go from here.
All right. First thing we will address is action to hire Jim Sutton as a temporary consultant to the Emergency Management Office. This was something that I had put on the agenda. I feel, no disrespect to Jamie, but with our possibilities being pretty significant of flooding this spring, I just thought it might be in our best interest, and Jamie is new and trying to learn all these things and then all the paperwork that goes along with it, that we would continue with Jim on a consultant sort of basis, hour per hour. Just something that I thought I would throw out there. If the rest of you would also feel that way, that we would keep him on just as a consultant.
This would be, and when I talked to Brenda, it's as needed. I said that I would help out when needed. If I'm not needed, that's fine with me. But if things get busy and you need some extra assistance, I'm willing to help out. Because the commission and Cottington County have been good to me, and I'd like to be available to help out if needed.
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion second by Van Duzen. Any further discussion?
Yeah. So just on the, do we need to talk about the rate and the budget line?
We can go into personnel probably, and then we can come out and further discuss that, because that's kind of something that I had in there.
Okay.
So.
All right. So can we, as far as where in the budget it would come out, with that?
I'm thinking maybe commissioner's contingency.
Okay, so if it was an emergency we needed to call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that wasn't something that was budgeted out of that. So yes, anyway, that's kind of what my thoughts are.
simply from experience with Jim, I know he won't work us over. I know he'll be very.
No.
And we appreciate you stepping up and offering to help us out and help Jamie out. And Jamie, we understand. It's not that we don't think you can do it.
Right.
No.
It's just that it's always good to have somebody to an ear.
He will be an excellent resource.
That's right.
On a team that's been through it before, so.
Let's hope we don't have any flooding.
Yeah. Maybe if we do all this, we'll scare it away.
It's not looking good.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
It's when we have the flooding.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all in
Thanks,
favor
Jim.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Thank you, and we'll work on the details. Item number 9, action to authorize the chair to sign the annual Title VI policy statement and advertise a notice of public rights.
So make the motion to authorize the chair to sign that.
All right, got a motion by Gable, do I have a
It'll
second?
be to sign and publish.
To sign and publish, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Got a motion, we have a second by Waterman. Any further discussion?
So I think it's good to point out that we're appointing, by doing this, we're appointing Jamie as the Title VI coordinator.
We did that at a previous
Yeah.
meeting, yes.
Okay, so that's formalizing.
Yeah, we already did that.
Thank you, Jamie, for accepting.
Yeah, he wasn't here, that's what
You weren't here to defend yourself,
yeah,
so.
you want to make sure you show up at meetings or,
You should be at all meetings.
So people know,
I think it went something like this. Let's see, who would be a good Jamie?
is this an annual thing, Cindy?
Yes, it is.
I want you to,
No, it
Jim
is,
used to do that.
isn't it every,
no, it is not an annual thing. It's an annual thing to approve the policy statement and advertise, but as far as appointing the coordinator, that's not an annual thing. That will
You
just
have
go
to
on.
die.
So, but the
It'll just
statement's
go on
annual.
until somebody,
you have to die or move.
yeah,
Or retire.
yeah.
retire?
By the way, just to give you a good feeling, it was unanimous. The vote was, so.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 10, action to authorize application for Homeland Security grant funds.
This, annually, we have Homeland Security grant funds that are available, and once again, this year, the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management, we have plans on applying for some of these Homeland Security grant funds, if approved by the Commission to do so.
And this is a requirement of Department of Legislative Audits, so that this board is aware of all the grants that your department heads or your elected officers are applying for. They want you to give approval first for the application of grants.
So moved.
Got a motion by
Second.
Johnson, second by Gable. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 11, action to approve the volunteer roster for workers' compensation insurance.
We have volunteer rosters for search and rescue, weather spotters, LEPC members, and let's see, volunteer. We've added Jim to the list of volunteers for 2020, and then the Camp Chance volunteers. And these names will be kept on file in the auditor's office, but for workers' comp, we do need to approve the rosters.
I'll move to approve the volunteer list.
All right, motion by
second.
Johnson, second by Gable. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries as well. All right, item number 12, is that something of yours, Jim?
No.
Okay.
The only thing, the last thing I have, and I see that I'd overlooked this, but in reference to that Homeland Security grant, we've tentatively set a date up as March 12th for our regional Homeland Security meeting that we have up at Webster. And at that meeting, there will be, Jamie will be attending that meeting along with one representative from law enforcement. So again, that would be on March 12th, and that's, at that meeting, they prioritize.
Do we have any idea how many dollars are available this year?
No.
I mean, it seems like it keeps shrinking.
It keeps shrinking.
But-
Last year, we were in the neighborhood of, $300 and some thousand dollars,
Okay.
like $350,000 for the region.
For the region,
And
yeah.
that's a 10-county region. And we always end up with more requests for funding than what we have money available. So at this meeting on March 12th, we prioritize the list. We go over it. And basically, each county is asked, well, what would be your first priority for your county? And then those 10 projects would be listed, and then you go back around the table again, well, what's your second priority? And so,
We used that for radios one year, right?
yes, and that's what we plan on doing at the county level, is using that grant for the communications equipment.
Yeah, that's a big expense when you have to start
What did we
operating.
get last year on that, Jim?
Well, how much did we get?
Yeah, what did we get?
I'd have to look back to give you an exact figure because I don't remember off the top of my head. You know, I kind of look at it, Charlie, is that I'd look at it by population-wise and how much, you know, if by our population of our county, how much we should get. And last year, I think it was in the neighborhood of about $80,000 that, you know, that we should get, you know, if we're fair with, you know, each county as far as population.
Population has a lot to bear on this then.
Population, well, I look at that, but it's a regional thing, and there's years where we may get a little more money than that amount, and there's years that we may get less money than that, depending on what projects are identified within the region. And you know, sometimes, especially with the smaller counties, if you go by population, they may have a project and they normally would get $20,000, but this generator that they'd like to put in at their shelter is costing $35,000, so they may get more that year and we'd get less, that kind of thing. So there's give and take involved in that
I can
process.
tell you what our reimbursements were in 2019. I don't know if that gets us close to the number we need. Let's see.
Did we use it for security cameras last year, or, I know we used a lot of it for security cameras.
Yeah, we've used it for security projects, both in this facility and also over at the law enforcement jail complex. We've had other security projects and other government buildings in the city.
In the
Communications equipment.
in the towns around here too.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
towns around here, and
Florence
we've
and Henry
used,
and all of them have gotten. yeah.
we've used Homeland Security grant funds for security camera systems in all the schools in the county. We've had door security systems for some of the schools. And, you know, and with the Homeland Security grant funds is what we recommend to people is that, you know, if you apply, say for instance, a school, they apply the first year and they don't get accepted, well, that moves them up on the list for the following year. So, you know, it's a thing that, you know, that if at first you don't succeed, you try again.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
So it looks like the reimbursements we received in 2019 were just under $72,000.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And that would be projects through the sheriff's office and through the emergency management.
Great.
Okay.
And with the Homeland Security grant now, each individual applicant has to apply themselves. So what I'm getting at is if a school, one of the schools in the county wants to apply for Homeland Security grant funds, they have to do that themselves with the Office of Homeland Security and Peer. And then we do it for ourselves. It used to be that the Emergency Management Office, we did the paperwork for the entire county, but the state wants each individual entity to do
So
it
the
themselves.
schools in this region are included in your
Yes, that's
amount
correct.
available?
Yes.
Okay, so that really
All the municipalities.
draws from the pot, yeah.
That's right.
But but I think, did you say, so you just said though that starting this year though, that the school would need to apply on their own is what?
No,
or-
that's
or-
been that way for the last couple of years, Lee.
Okay, so now it's the other way around. It's the other way around, okay.
Comes from
Okay.
our available
Other way around.
funds.
Yes, it's for,
Okay.
Okay. Have the schools dropped off on their requests?
I
From
would,
initially, I mean, from the initial safety measures they took?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
There's requests every year
There is,
from
okay.
schools.
Do you know how they're notified?
I forward the information
Okay, you
to
do.
the schools
Okay.
when I get it. And then I think that they also get the information through
Yeah, that's what I
their
mean.
association, but I make sure that the schools get
Good.
it.
Good.
That's good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. Have a nice day.
You too, thanks.
Have a good week, Jamie.
You bet, thank you.
All right, we will move on to item number 12, action to declare printer surplus to be destroyed.
So move.
GEN 01384.
Second.
Cindy, do you want to have any explanation on that?
You got I have a motion and a second. This is a printer that is 12 years old, so I think we really got our money out of it. It died when we were running tax notices this year. It just, I checked on having it fixed, and they said it really does not pay to have it fixed. In fact, the printer that I purchased to replace this one was less than our $2,000 equipment limit, so the cost has gone down, and I got a much better printer than I did have, so just need to have this one destroyed.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries also. Item number 13, discussion, possible action to appoint a temporary facilities manager. I also put this item on the agenda. It's just become apparent that, to no fault of anybody's, it's just overwhelming, and we maybe need to look at somebody else to fill that position until it's temporarily, until we get the whole hiring process taken care of. That individual that is being considered for this would be Steve Mollengrath. So I don't know if anybody would entertain to put a
I'd make the motion to do that.
And I would second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is there any problem with that, Steve? Will it fit well with what you're doing, or your schedule for the winter?
Yep, yeah. So it works out with it in this time period that, you know, with his weed position, and he usually comes over and helps anyway, and Jeff has been talked to, and everybody's okay with it, so.
That was going to be my question.
That was my question
Yep.
too, is it's all right with Steve, but what about Jeff?
Yes,
I mean,
yep.
he's considered our temporary.
Yes. Yep, Jeff was
Building
notified and
management.
talked to, and it's all been, everybody's okay with that.
Well, we can solve that in a hurry if we get somebody hired.
I know, well, hopefully. That's going to take
Get
a
it
little
done.
while though, so. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries also. All right, so we will also take care of some of the details in our executive session on compensation and personnel sort of things. So item number 14, discussion, possible action to temporarily reinstate the BHDP Behavioral Health Deflection Program. And that would be with Sarah. So if you'd want to come up and explain what your position is on that.
Is it warm over here?
Yes. We don't have heat. It's getting there. It's got turned back on, so it's, I know, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Did you come over to report or to warm up?
Both. I would, well, no.
What is the issue with the heating over there?
I don't know.
What's the
Last
problem?
year it was, I don't know why it keeps shutting off, but it keeps shutting off and it's sporadic.
Is it like radiant heat or
It's a
gas or
boiler
what is it,
system?
boiler?
Yeah, there's a hot water
hot water.
thing in there, yeah.
It shuts off. Why it shuts off, it's sporadic. That's beyond my,
I'm sure the newly appointed facilities manager can look into that.
that's
Yeah.
beyond my
Yeah.
expertise, way beyond. I've got two of my own personal heat pures that I turn on to warm up as much as I can, but I have to be careful because otherwise I will
Overload.
Yeah, so the request for the deflection program to just extend it is to work with the individuals right now that we have. We have two very intensive that need a lot of services, and just instead of just, it's a budgeted item that we had the funds for, and still it was really harsh to nix the clients that we did, and they just need some more time to be able to connect to services and to get stabilized. We do find, for example, with a lot of them, it's the employment and working with folk rehab, and our total time frame to get that all together takes about 90 days. There's two individuals for sure that are very high need. The one is a little bit more stabilized, and I really hate to see them go backwards because it is somebody that has had several visits for alcohol treatment and behavioral health. So, and then the other individual is just, we're really trying to figure out, it falls through the gaps of everything, either to not qualify for just certain things, so we're still just working with that. So that would not require, there wouldn't be any additional referrals coming in. The police department isn't sending those over. So it would just be to work with these individuals to close this out, to have that continuity of care. We have one individual that's very confused by what we're doing, a couple of them too, and it really kind of hurts that trust, and Christina had that, so it would allow us some continuity of care. Just keep in mind too that the program is just billable per the hours that it's worked. So the fewer, as they start getting closed out, then the less time will be needed. So the one individual I would say is extremely intensive, and we're trying to get it so that he's not out on the streets, especially with
Sarah,
this
what is
cold.
the time frame you're looking at here?
Most of them, I think, the majority, within 30 days. With this one individual, might be 60, would be my guess. I think we can do it in 60, or at least get enough stability to close it out. But
We're
it-
talking 60 to 90 days.
30 to 60. 30 to 60?
Yeah,
And no new individuals
There
are
would be
coming
no-
into the program?
No, I'm just asking, and we're not getting any referrals from the police department, so those case notes aren't coming in, so there wouldn't be anything new. It would just be to finish out the current. I think that's the best thing to do for these people.
So this would be just helping the people that are in limbo right now and cleaning out the bucket, so to speak.
Yeah, you guys keep in mind, we've just had kind of what I would call sometimes the perfect storm, like with losing the palace and stuff. For example, the homeless report from the South Dakota Housing Consortium, I think December we had, 9, and compared to our average 2 or 3, so we've seen an increase. And I had that one day where we had 5, so we're seeing higher all of a sudden, just homeless or whatever type thing. But so this would allow me to work with those individuals and for Christina to maintain hers case management with
So
these.
just so I'm clear, what we're asking for is to reinstate the LSS partnership for 60 days?
Yes, 60 or 90. I hate to, I think we can do it in 60, but if we said 90, it should allow us to just transition that over.
Can I ask a question? Madam
Yes.
Chair? So just a few questions. So you're saying 2 individuals need intensive attention. Now, are they hooked into services already?
The one individual, yes, and is fairly stabilized. We're just waiting for, let me just take a look at it so I don't miss. We're finishing off the Volk Rehab part and employment and referring with that Department of Labor. The Volk Rehab, the total time from all the testing that we find, it's about 30 days to get your appointment, another 60 days before it's finalized to get accepted. And that's just because of the volume that they have. But we have her housed, she's on housing, she's working with several agencies, so working with her to help get that employment component. So
Okay.
this individual's burnt a lot of bridges, so it's working to help advocate for that employment. And what we have found is if individuals have that case management piece, they understand, they're more likely to engage. The other individual, has just fell through every gap. But if we do case management every day, we're attempting to get into services, but everything that we've done, it's like, well, it doesn't fit. So we're working on that. But
Okay,
it requires just every day.
so 3 weeks ago when the deflection program ended, we were trying to get this person hooked in with this case manager was trying to call these different agencies, trying to get them hooked in, and then you picked that up and tried to do that.
On
And
this
so when
end-
you're saying, so it's like, I guess I'm having trouble understanding the difference between services and case management. So-
On this one individual, it was actually having to meet with the individual every day. Some days we're able to get, there's a motivation issue as far as there's a lack of insight as well on this individual, and we still haven't been able to figure it out as far as, so we meet with them every day, do the applications, help with it. There's times, the individual did get a diploma, but probably shouldn't have type scenario. So we run into that cognitive, and so we've got some testing lined up for the individual, because if they can get approved under that, then they can get through independent living choices or Lifescapes. We just last week was able to get them to contact Teen Challenge, and they said no. So we're each day kind of helping that individual, okay, what's the next step? There's no executive functioning minimum there, but also a lot of insight and a lot of hesitancy. So we're doing a lot of that. How about this? What do you think of this? Meeting with every day.
Question. So when other individuals within the community need that kind of intensity, I mean, I guess I understand that maybe that's not typical case management for the welfare office on a day-to-day. I can understand that.
No.
Where do they go? Do they go to HSA or someplace like that when they need that kind of a case, that kind of intensity, or what?
It varies. Each case is different. So with like the other one that I was talking about, the BHTP is picking up where the Beacon Center cannot. So that was a domestic violence, sexual assault. So the Beacon Center is picking up. We can if the individual is willing to, and if they have, the BHD person, if they identify some mental health and some cognitive, we'll refer them to HSA to see if there's like transitional residency. We look at the Big Brothers Sisters Behind Christ at the Midwest Bible Camp. We look at, the different independent living choices in Voc Rehab. I would say ILC and Voc Rehab are the two least restrictive and most willing that people are to work with. So this individual is willing to work with Voc Rehab right now, and also considering independent living choices. So we kind of catch them into that, but a lot of times we're calling each other saying, okay, this is where we're at, what do we do next? Did that?
Not really. I think
there's gaps, is
okay,
what I'm saying. There are gaps. This individual fills the gaps. I don't have anything at this time for that, or it's the waiting of the Social Security to get that through before they have that connection. So
I guess it's hard for me to understand while you're just in these waiting periods, what does a case manager do? I mean, you're just waiting. I mean,
but they don't have the time to wait because they'll be evicted and homeless. So what we do as a case management, we help them fill out their job applications. We help them, can you the biggest gap are the single adults, because they can't get TANF. There's no financial support. So we're doing multiple things. Can we get them on housing? Can we advocate to get them up on the priority list? Because their disability is not yet met the criteria of the Social Security office. Can we get them working just a little bit? And then can we follow up and maintain a little bit of like kind of what it's the job coach that Voc Rehab does until we can get them connected to that service. Once they get that Voc Rehab can fill in those gaps, make those recommendations. For example, like if someone needs this one individual, we're looking at like either Lifescapes or VOA down in Sioux Falls, possibly, because the Teen Challenge has been off the table. Journey Home's full. The struggle is if you don't think something's wrong with you, it's hard to keep to work with that individual, but working with that individual to say, can you recognize this? Do you recognize that you need to take a shower before you go for a job interview? Can you recognize brushing your teeth? Some of those basics. So a lot of times what we'll do is in the interim, we'll talk to like ILC or Voc Rehab and say, well, what do you guys do? What can we do till they're connected?
If I could so to me, all those things sound like different services that you would connect to. I mean, that's right.
But the 90 days is what the issue is if we can help them get some income coming in so that they can continue to stay in their place.
I guess my question is, so in our community overall, going back to my question, is so if the welfare office is not going to be the case manager, and I can understand an individual like this could be pretty intense, is there some place in the community like HSA that would case manage that and help?
The outreach service that goes out to reach to them, not that I am aware of, that can go and connect to them and meet them at their place. I have not had that. not if they don't have the mental health component.
So we're talking about one individual, basically?
There's two of the highest need right now. There's 9 total. I do think I have there was 3, but I think I have the one connected to another social worker and other services. I think we can close out, so pretty close.
The question that I have is it's very impersonal. We've heard all of the other stuff now. My question is dollars and cents, and it's to you and to Cindy. You know, we denied the renewal of that contract with LSS. I don't know what the dollars amount was, but, you know, what are we talking about? You know, 30, 60 days, we're talking about using, you know, what, 1/12 or 2 or 1/6 of that contract, or as far as payment for LSS, or how, that's what I'm wondering about. And then if it is, if we just have 2 or 3 people, it gets to be pretty spendy for 2 or 3 people, and that's not, I know it's very impersonal, because I know, how do you put a price on somebody's well-being, but we're spending county money here, and we need to step up and say, okay, what's this going to cost us?
Well, and if we have other agencies in town that can also, you know, have these other agencies been contacted by you yet to see if these individuals would qualify to be part of their programs?
Yeah, we ask, so we can't violate an individual's rights. So if we ask somebody, do you want to work here, and they say no, then our step is to try to work with them to do that. I can't force or coerce somebody, and it is.
That's where I think the system is screwed up.
Yeah, I don't have that ability.
I think there's a lot of sidewalks that can be shoveled right now. Put them out there and shovel sidewalks, you know?
So-
Of course, I'm very impersonal.
No, I get it. I really do wish I had that. But it comes down to, for example, you know, are you going to let that person be on the street and freeze to death too? So we literally have had that this last
If they're
week.
shoveling snow, they'd stay warm.
So, the cost last year, I think, Cindy, was the cost 18,000 that we spent for the whole year.
Approximately, yes.
Because
Yep.
the last
Yeah.
bill hasn't come in yet from December, so.
But for 20, you know what we
It
spent. So we've always
averaged-
spent less than what
It
the actual
averaged about
contract.
1,700 a month, the way
Yeah.
it looked, but you're only, I mean, this was covering far more clients than what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate to work the full. It's 12 hours maximum.
Is LSS, are they on board with just us stepping back into this if we decide to
I
do that?
asked Mary Johnson, she said yes. I did,
Because there's no contract in place at this point.
no, she said they'd be willing to, just because it's that same, it's really a continuity of care. When part of it is you have to build that individual's trust.
No, I get
Yeah,
that,
okay.
but
But
what I'm
she
asking
said
about is the
yes.
financial part of the contract.
Yes.
The other, if, Madam Chair,
Yes.
the other thing to be aware of, as we talk about the dollars and cents of this, is, you know, we'd kind of, when we were talking about this a few weeks ago, my impression was that it kind of revealed a need in your office for maybe some more manpower. So if we're saving money by discontinuing the deflection program, then maybe we can apply that toward increasing the manpower in the office. And so that's a concern, that if we start to burn through some of that money, even though it's case by case emergency type use of that money, then that's a concern of mine, because I think, you know, this whole discussion is revealing that there's a need there. We need to figure that out. But
This would allow the ability to transition, because, you know, the individual that would provide that, mostly of that, is out on medical leave as well. And this would allow us to transition these people, the continuity of care, as the case manager comes back too. So yeah, it's kind of, like I said, the perfect storm. If she wasn't out on medical leave, we probably could have picked the bulk. I'm contemplating, you know, if I carry these, I have to drop some medical. When you want to talk about costs, I've got a couple of them right now that would be about $75,000, and I don't think it's prudent for us to drop those and trying to get those people on Social Security and that follow-up. So that's where I'm weighing that as, do you take that immediate need right now? And I have no idea why, like I said, that one day we had those 5 homeless people. I can't explain to you what happened, why, what caused that. But what we're finding is individuals have higher needs, they've burned those bridges maybe with some of the resources and trying to reconnect. And we do, you know, it comes to the point for this individual where we've said, you know, we can do this for you, can do, the individual is very compliant. The one that's the highest intensive is very compliant, but it just is like you have to walk with them a little bit, and then they'll do it. So you get them started, and then they do. So what we're also working at is trying to develop some peer support for that individual. Yeah, the whole idea is to get them. We don't want the long term. We just want to fill it till it gets
How long have
connected.
these individuals been being assisted in this program?
You know, I'm not for sure. I had asked, did anybody reach out to Mary Johnson? I did. I don't think anybody that I was aware of. Okay. For the connect dates. The two that we're talking, well, the one is more recent. This individual that I'm talking that's higher need has been longer, was referred by Judge McCann. This individual also, I mean, we have submitted, he has filled out and submitted several applications. We don't even get a call back. So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to get a job if you can't even get those calls back? So we don't know for sure what's going on with that individual.
So can you give me a time frame?
For this one individual?
Yeah.
So I want to say, if I recall, I think we started in October or November with this individual. But we're at that point, there was some weather, was why he missed his folk rehab, so we had to reschedule that. So we have that coming up here in January, and then it'll take us another 60 days after that, because we're looking at Lifescapes, VOA, and ILC. So that's a longer individual. The other individual was also longer, but she's now about at that stability point, just the employment. She's got the housing. We've worked with VAWA, with the Beacon Center and stuff too, to get those housings. So it's kind of where we look at and we say, well, what's next? And we come together, the different ones of us that are working, and we're like, what's next? The one individual didn't have any idea or anything, so we had to start there. And we can't do voc rehab, we can't do Department of Labor until we get all those.
So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you're to the point now where some decisions are going to be made. So like the heavy lift is done. They're getting connected to services. I guess I don't see the need to continue on with this. When we started the behavioral health deflection program, it was more on to help with mental sort of situations out in the field and not be a caseworker, basically, is kind of how I looked at it more so. That we do have other agencies in town. ICAP is another agency that these individuals, if you give them a choice, of course, maybe they'll say they'd rather stay the one, but if they have no choice, they're going to have to do these things. If they want to receive help, they're going to have to learn, too, that, you know, there's only so much that's available.
The behavioral health deflection program, we did request for somebody to be licensed. It is intended to be an outreach to connect to services, but also to help people get into that pre-contemplation state, which can be the most difficult. This individual, we did refer to ICAP, and there wasn't the services. The gap is the single individuals. And what do you do for the...
Sarah, did you contact ICAP yourself, or did you send the individual?
We follow up. We sent the individual, and then we follow up.
How recent ago was that? Because I've contacted them, and they weren't aware of anything. So how recent would have this been?
Well, the last time we sent them was last week, but multiple times. You can still get funding, but if a landlord won't rent to you, you know, that's an issue too. And if you don't have a job, many of them won't. So I wouldn't make the request if I didn't feel that the need was there, and if I didn't feel that it was important. And if an individual, we do oftentimes have to tell individuals, no, this isn't the case. You know, no, we can't, I'm sorry, nothing. But when you've got that stability going for so long for many of these, you want to finish that out and do well. That's just right by those individuals. This other one that it's just, like I said, there's not a self-awareness, and we're working with that. It just takes time and that ability to do that, and that continuity of care would stay there. We'll do our best regardless of what the decision, but I do feel that it was a step backwards to end that abruptly, and it was very harsh for the individuals.
I would like to just say, we do have a representative here from HSA. I don't know, Carrie, would you like to add in on anything of our discussion? I'd like to, come on up and just explain what your agency is able to provide.
We do a lot of what.
Carrie, I'm going to have you, before you start talking, I'm sorry.
Introduce yourself
there
too,
you
will you?
Okay, just let us know.
Sure, I'm Carrie Johnston, the CEO of the Human Service Agency. We do a lot of what Sarah is talking about, case management with individuals that have disabilities. We hook them up with voc rehab. They do have to have a mental illness or mental health diagnosis. She's very right that they have to want to join with us, but we do our best to engage them. When we take handoffs from maybe the jail or somewhere else, we do the best we can to have a warm handoff and make sure that it's inviting and engaging services. We actually spend training hours on how to engage somebody and use motivational interviewing to help them get motivated. And then we're able to do that. If an individual needs to be met with every single day for daily living skills, the way Sarah described, I would assume they need a really higher level of care than case management can even involve. I would assume they need like a transition residence, which we provide for people with psychiatric illnesses, or on the community support side. For New Horizons, we have housing for those individuals as well. But you also have to respect that if they don't want the service too, like we said earlier, then we might back off a little bit and say, okay, we're here when you need us and come find us. But we have funding for all of these services, and we find a way to make it work for individuals that financially meet those means, and almost all of them do.
So, so the question, I guess, would be for this individual or possibly two individuals, have we tried to approach HSA, or could we see about maybe?
They at this time, the one has refused services at HSA, so we went elsewhere, and that is their choice. And the other individual does not have a psychiatric or mental health diagnosis, more the cognitive, and so we're going through that independent living choices type thing within that. So it's doing the same type of thing. We're just saying the individual isn't unwilling to engage. There's just a lot there, and with the disruption of the housing piece and having to, when you're sleeping at Prairie Lakes, the entry area, or trying to find a place to sleep every night, it's very difficult to get stabilized with that. So we're working to get that place, the apartment with the homeless room with the county opened up, so the individual's back in there. Just that time, and it's a complicated. It is that with there, but this individual does not have. They function high enough and well enough, majority of the time, to not meet some of those criteria. So once in a while you fall into that, and the individual is willing to work. So, we're just asking the opportunity to continue that.
We could work with an individual like that. They don't have to necessarily have full-on mental illness for us to provide case management services, because we have outpatient funding that can help with that too. They just have to have a mental health diagnosis, and given a person who is lacking daily living skills, they're going to meet a mental health diagnosis for sure. Benchmark is another facility in town that provides case management for individuals with cognitive delays. They're not associated with New Horizons because we have a conflict-free case management system, and that's who we employ. And so that might be someone else that individual could certainly work with as well.
What's that? I'm sorry, what's that called?
It's called Benchmark Case Management in Madison and Brookings, but not the Watertown individuals, because it has to be conflict-free. So Benchmark is the provider for us, one of them.
Well, I know, like, if they are truly homeless, ICAP also helps those individuals, because that's part of their criteria, and then it's based off from the poverty level as far as some of those things. So, if they're sleeping in an entryway, that would be, ICAP would, they would qualify for some of ICAP's case management as well.
To the lay people, and I'm one of those people, you people are talking, and there's 100 different programs out here, and I think we should scratch them all and have one. I mean, it's so frustrating for us. the main thing is let's get these people help. And you guys are experts in the field, and you're educated, get it done. That's what I'll say, you figure it out and get it done.
But I'd like to think that we do that for the most part. If someone comes through our doors or we get a warm handoff, if Sarah were to call and say, I have this individual that works with you or wants to work, or here's my gap, we do our best to make sure they fill one of our buckets, because we can and we do. They just have to want the service somewhat. But like I said, we work on engaging and trying to welcome people and motivate them for change. And so I feel like we do our best to do that.
Yeah, they just need the ask.
And I would say too, we do that, and then we work with them as well as much as we can, and it is complex. Sometimes what you're dealing with is, can be genetics, and you're also dealing with, they didn't get the same opportunities as other people did growing up, and we're kind of stuck trying to do our best to help provide that human service piece of it.
But on the other
Because we
hand-
already have this.
On the other hand, the county didn't take them to raise either.
Huh?
The county didn't take them to raise either.
No, but what do you?
I mean, they're a Cudahy County resident, and they're our responsibility. But we didn't take them to raise, they gotta do some stuff on their own.
Yeah.
And our philosophy when we provide case management and services is never to enable, but to empower. That's a huge piece that we try to work with our clients, is we are going to empower you and teach you skills so that you can do this on your own. We're not likely to maybe do it for them, because that's not helping anybody. That's just putting a burden on the system. We're going to empower them to do their own application and empower them to do their own hygiene and that kind of thing. And so that's always our goal.
Yeah,
Exactly
that's the
like
same
you
as
said.
ICAP's motto as well. It's a hands up, not a hands out.
Yep.
I guess I'm just going to, so we can move this forward, I guess I would be opposed to reinstating that contract, Sarah. It's not that I don't think that this is important, but I think we're moving forward with where we need to go, and there's other agencies. I think we need to explore those. We've ended our contract with LSS. We can give them the bowl of milk, but we can't force them to drink. And I think I just really feel like that's what we're trying to do. And you're doing. I've said this a million times, you're doing great things in the welfare office. We appreciate the work, and I know it's frustrating sometimes, but we've cut that tie, and I'm opposed to going back. So
Well, we don't have a motion on the floor, so I guess if we don't get a motion, it dies due to a lack of a
I just have
motion.
one question, Madam Chairman. Would these, this would be for yourself, would these two individuals be picked up? Because I don't want to leave somebody out in the cold at night.
no, we don't.
Well, we don't provide immediate housing for homeless, but we could provide services to them if they wanted that. From what I'm understanding from Sarah, one of them has refused services at HSA, but I would sure like the opportunity to engage them if that were an
Because I don't want to see
opportunity.
anybody fall through the cracks.
Sir, where are these people living now?
The one got through housing, and we were able to work at East Point. The other is in the Cottington County homeless room, the room for the homeless, at the budget. But if we have another need come up, I am concerned, because we had several nights last week where that individual was sleeping outside. So I get that I can't force somebody to do things, but at the same time, it would be really hard to have somebody freeze to death and have that on our plate. Do you see what I'm kind of, because I can't even force the individual to get on a bus to get to a shelter that's
Well,
available. That's where I'm
it's
kind
been
of.
my experience, that, and I don't want to see anybody go homeless. I don't want to see anybody freeze to death out there. But I do know of several individuals that get rather innovative, and they do have mental capacities. Troy, I'm sure you can say that they find a place to make it work.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's the best place to make it work, but they've got to start someplace and get picked up and work through the program. And if it takes 6 more months, 9 more months, a year,
Yeah.
we did 60 days. Troy mentioned 60 days. I mentioned 90 days. When you're dealing with mental capacities and incapacities, is 90 days enough? Is a year enough? That's my question. You can't say that in 37 days you're going to be okay.
I would reiterate, if they are truly homeless, ICAP is the agency that they can go to see if they can help plug them into services.
The last thing that I would want to see after all this discussion is in the paper, my family that froze.
Well, nobody wants to see
No.
that. I think we can all agree that we're all
That
human,
isn't-
and humanity is first and foremost here over dollars, but I just think we've made that decision to move forward. There's resources out there. We're not saying that these people are going to be thrown in a snowbank. That's not what we're doing. But what we are saying is that we have to look at the other agencies that are out there. Brenda's said ICAP is one of them. I think we have to explore that.
Rather than doubling
And
up.
HSA, I mean,
Yep.
if they don't want to go there, then that's their decision.
You're
But
right, and-
HSA is willing to help,
And
but they
you're-
have to want the help.
You guys, I've made you guys aware of some situations too where we get called, someone's staying in their vehicle, but they're refusing what we've offered. This individual's willing to work, and it's a matter of whether, those services at that point, our first focus is getting that homeless. This individual's willing to work. We'll do the best that we can. Continuity of care, it's easier, it's best to continue with somebody that you've already built that relationship with.
Maybe
That's
if
fine.
they realize that we're not going to continue with Christina, maybe they'll realize that they should probably have a conversation with Carrie or her staff at HSA.
Like I said, I'm not in the business, and I hate to preach, but what frustrates me, we talk about ICAP, we talked about HSA, LSS, we talk about on and on and on, all these agencies. For crying out loud, work together. I sometimes wonder if the left hand knows what the right hand is doing in these agencies. We got so many of them. If somebody comes to you and you don't have the resources or can't help, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to pick up the phone and call HSA or LSS or ICAP or whoever, but work together on this particular case and get it taken care of. I think to the layman, it looks to me like there's a competition out there. In other words, if you refer someone to this agency, we're not going to take them to make you look bad. This is what it looks like out there. Honestly.
Well, I apologize if that's the view that the Human Service Agency had a representative. That's not the case. We have monthly meetings with all of our providers in town. We're part of Lake Area Child Protection Team meeting. We meet with probation. We meet with parole. We meet with other providers. We're active in prevention. We're active in the schools. I don't know as though we could do any more networking. And part of Human Service Agency is to serve people, and I don't care where they get the service. I want them to do well. I respect LSS and all the private practitioners in town.
And I can tell you,
can't say no
Carrie,
good things.
and I've worked in law enforcement as a police officer for 23 years, almost 24 years in Watertown. I've worked hand in hand with HSA on many, many different occasions. And you guys have always stepped up and been there. And nobody is trying to, Myron, I don't get that opinion, that idea that it's a competition. I know
I'm not that close to it as you.
I know sometimes it seems that way, maybe, but everybody has the best interest of everybody else in mind, and
I certainly hope that's the way it is.
I think we can resolve this. I think we can solve this. But the people have to want to. They have to want to take the services. You can offer me as many services as you want. If I don't want them, I'm not going to take them. And if I think I'm going to get a handout day after day, why would I want to?
Right.
Right?
The biggest, like with this individual, is the 30 days, once we get that appointment with local rehab, and then we're in that 60 days interim. So I think it's more of a matter of time. It's just that time of that interim as they're getting connected to those.
I think it's more of a matter of they still want Christina to do it. When they realize Christina is not going to be able to do this, they might make up their mind to have a different opinion.
I just want to make a comment. It kind of was something that Commissioner Johnson was saying, the mapping of services, kind of understanding all the stuff that's out there. So we had a good start on that with the SAMHSA workshop that we did a while ago. That was more in the law, once they get into the criminal justice system, but that's a good start. But also with the 2-on-1 coming on, there's going to be kind of a built-in map, so we need to, if there's something, some connections that need to be made, now's maybe an opportunity to do that. And then we can, maybe we need to reinvigorate our discussion, that started with the Stepping Up initiative that Sarah started, and broaden it a little bit, not just the Stepping Up side, which was targeted at, mental health in jails, but kind of the social services, menu that's out there. So to make sure we have a good sense
Yep.
of what's going on and what's available.
There is an old phrase, or proverb, of the horse and the trough. But I think this is one of those times when it's time to move on and not take a step back.
All right, so with that, I guess, I don't know if you have any other discussion. I would entertain a motion if someone so wishes to make that motion. I will ask that question. Seeing that, I guess we'll move on then to item number 15.
Thank you for
Thank you.
consideration.
Yep, thank you.
And I'm not as hard-nosed as it sounds like.
All right, item number 15, action to approve abatement applications.
We have 6 abatement applications. The applicants all qualify for state assessment freeze programs. Due to HIPAA regulations, we cannot reveal their names. The 6 total abatements amount to $4,137.52.
All right, someone want to make a
I'll
motion?
make the motion. Second.
All right, motion by Waterman, second by Gable. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 16, action to appoint the Housing and Redevelopment Board member and authorize chair to sign the certificate of appointment of the same. Cindy, you want to do any explanation on that?
First, we need to reappoint Elmer Brinkman to the board. His term expired at the end of 2019, and he has agreed to sit on this board yet. So that will take him through 2024. We just need a motion for that first.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Gable. Second? Second by anyone to put Elmer on that board?
I'll second.
All right, second by Van Duzen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Then we also need authorization for chair to sign the certificate of appointment of the same.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by
So,
Gable.
the chair to sign.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries also. Action to approve a revised Memorial Park Campground Manager's Contract Template. We ready to put into that paper?
We're ready. Been ready for a few weeks now. I would like to get this taken care of. I think you've all had an opportunity to review the contract. The question that came up last week is who's going to be taking the reservations after that period of time, and I'm going to defer to Commissioner.
We've looked into the reservation part of it. We don't feel that's actually part of the contract. It can be held separately. We found out, done some research, and presently doing some digging into that. And it's led to many different directions, and hopefully we'll get that handed out pretty shortly.
Right. That can be more of a policy sort of thing. We just need to get the contract so we can get our campground managers hired and move on with that. Lee, did you have?
I'll just make the motion to approve the template. And
Got a motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any further discussion?
can I emphasize, it's a template. And
Yep.
so there are blanks in there that, like to agree on certain specifics for a particular contract. So basically what we're talking about, so people know, is we're talking about finding somebody who could provide services to run the campground, basically, in the convenience store, et cetera. And so then the next step is going to be either an RFP or a request for quotes or something, I would guess.
The blanks that are in the contract deal specifically with periods of dates and that sort of thing, so, which will change. That's why they're blank.
And so as far as the reservation system goes, I guess we could just handle that completely separately, or it's a template. I mean, we can insert things in there, so if we need to.
Okay, so then as far as going forward with the process to get these individuals hired, what is our next step then? Did we already have that in our agenda to be able to advertise for that?
So we were waiting for the contract, I think, to be finalized.
So we need to get that on the agenda then to advertise for campground managers for next week then?
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion?
Perfect.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. We
Thank
have
you.
that approved, and we will move forward then with our hiring process. And you can work on the reservations as a policy.
Just one little side note on the reservation thing. It is set up for 90 days prior, only do it 90 days prior
To the opening of the-
reservation.
Okay.
And if we have a campground manager, the way I'm understanding it, that person can go on the computer and make reservations or accept reservations if there's an opening, and they can take the money. Turn your mic on.
It's okay.
Okay, all right, well, we'll keep working on that whole thing, and when we get somebody hired, it will probably make the process much simpler. All right, number 18, action to approve claims for payment.
Nothing for 18 or 19 today.
All right. Number 20, I'm sorry, action to approve personnel changes, add a deputy reserve, Bryce Lawrence.
Previously, when we adopted, or when we approved the deputies reserve roster, I omitted Bryce Lawrence's name. So part of the motion for these personnel changes will be to add that. And then we also have anniversary step increases for the Deputy State's Attorney Becca Ryder to step 9, $33.91 per hour. And Janelle Nygaard is a criminal civil support coordinator in the sheriff's office. She'll go to step 12, $21.82 per hour.
All right,
Motion to approve.
a motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Travel requests.
The only travel request is from me, and it is authorization to attend an annual report workshop in Mitchell. It's a one-day trip, and depending on the availability of the county vehicle, I will take the county vehicle if available. There's no registration fee involved.
All right,
Motion to approve.
motion by Gable, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Van Duzen, any discussion?
Yeah, that day, everybody stay off the road because I see Cindy's going to leave at 8:45 and arrive in Mitchell at 9.
Really?
Now, I tell you what,
Jet fuel?
I want to learn that trip too.
She's a very capable auditor.
Yeah, the
8:45 a.m. departure, arrival at 9 in Mitchell. I tell you what, I got a term for that, but I better not
actually,
use it.
it should say 11.
It should stay 11.
I
That's
think
more
I
like
was
it.
trying to decide what time I needed to leave.
I'm not the only one that thinks that.
That's all in
I thought
material.
it was kind of funny. I just had to share that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 22, public notices. Do you want me to read through the list, or just so noted, we have several events that there could be a quorum
Well,
of commissioners at?
It's posted on the agenda, it's posted at the front door, the website, so
All right,
that's sufficient.
anybody have any new ones that they would like to add to the list, though?
We want to add that February 3rd, that pipeline safety.
Yeah, I guess that one is not on here,
I
so
don't see it on there.
Is there a possibility of a quorum?
there could maybe be, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to have it, I guess.
February 3rd?
Yes, February 3rd is probably at the
And
Elks.
that's at the Elks.
Yep, typically at the Elks, so. Time on that? Do you have a time? We'll figure it out.
They're usually 6 or 7 o'clock.
5:30 to
5:30?
10 or something like that.
All right. Any other additions to that list? Item number 23, old business. Anyone have any old
Yeah,
business?
Madam Chair, just on the website, we accepted the quote last week from PP Wix for website services, and so that's switched over. So we got it from the previous provider. It's a little bit more than we thought it was going to be because there was some coding involved. It turned out to be a bit of a challenge to get
It turned
it.
out that our website,
Yeah, our website
gone.
actually went down
It was
because
gone, yeah.
something, something that the previous provider did or
Something lapsed.
didn't do. But anyway, so we had, so PP Wix had to kind of pick it up, and it was it occupied a bit of our attention over the past week. So, but it's up and running. One other thing we need to think about is the monthly fee that you quoted was 15. However, because we have a lot of information on our website, because we want to make that information available to the public, that monthly fee might be, we're seeing if we can maybe take some of that off, but given the fact that we want a lot of information to be available to the public, we probably want to leave most of it on, would be my guess. So the monthly fee would not be 15, but might be $30. So that's just, hopefully that's okay. But anyway, that's just, we accepted the quote, but I think, had we accepted the quote of the more expensive provider, all that would have just been a little bit higher. So anyway.
All right. Anybody else have anything? How about for new business? I guess, I don't know if this qualify for new or open. I did attend the ICAP meeting. Cindy was here last week and gave an overview, and I just want to let everyone know that the community service workers and volunteers for ICAP are currently being trained for the IRS certification. It's called the VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistant Programs. This program will be available for all 14 of the counties and offers free e-filing for households under $56,000. This year there isn't a penalty for those who do not have health insurance, and they do plan on starting to file returns the last week in January. And I believe they maybe were located up at Lake Area.
I know they do. I know the Lake Area, the Financial Services Department does, their students do that as well. Maybe they do it together.
Yeah.
They're starting that on the 28th, and this next week, and it goes through March 14th up at Lake Area Tech on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays, I believe.
Yeah, you might know better because.
Yeah, I did. I just did a story on it this morning.
All right.
It's on my webpage, mykxlg.com.
Okay, so that helps then any of the individuals in the community with getting their income tax filed.
Now, it could be old business or it could be new business, but you all should have received an email from Glenn Vilhauer, did you, in reference to the retirement system? There's a complete, well, it's the end of the year, it's the annual report, and we just thought it'd be good to share it with commissioners and with all the legislators, and it's got all the statistics. And just one that kind of jumps out at you, last year, there was over $17 million returned to citizens of Catalina County, so that's just a big number. There's a lot of numbers in
Side
there.
note, yeah, I didn't get
I
that.
didn't get it. Yeah, I didn't get
You didn't
it.
get it?
No.
So send it
Be
to
interesting.
Cindy.
Sounds
Cindy
interesting.
can send it out to us, that way we don't
Yeah.
run into
Well,
issues with, So anything for the open, I guess we'll move into that.
Just, Madam Chair, just FYI, I spent a couple days in Pierre this past week to talk about we talked with legislators about the legislation that I showed the little video about. So basically the idea was to reduce costs for when counties have to build buildings by allowing us to ask voters for a sales tax, for a half-cent sales tax, as opposed to looking only at property tax. So that discussion's going on. Representative York is the prime sponsor. So we're in the process of gathering signatures, no bill number yet, but that's I'll probably go back this week for a couple days, so just FYI.
Yeah. Also on that note, Myron, you're okay with being the legislative contact, that if I would give them your name, if they contact you about certain
Yep.
things, you're okay with that? Okay, it's kind of on our liaison list, but I just wanted to make sure that I'll forward your name and number on, if that works. Anything else? All right, so we do have a need for executive session under number 1 and number 4, so I would look for a motion and a second to go into.
moved.
Moved by Van Duzen, second by Gable. We are into executive session, and I don't think there will be anything that after. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dave.